The Libra Everdark fight is just about to make way for the Tricephalos fight, so I wanted to talk a bit about my experiences and what I think about this fight, as well as solo versus group play. Everdark Libra is the most interesting Nightlord fight in Nightreign. The mechanics of the fight itself and Libra summoning NPCs is obviously the most unique element in any fight. But I think that there's a lot of conversation about the NPCs, rightfully so I want to focus about playing solo versus trio for this Libra fight, and how the choice that you make in how you play Libra makes it a vastly different experience. Everdark Libra is the most glaring example where we see how much the game is optimized for trios. In a trio, it is easily the most difficult Nightlord fight in the game. But solo is a completely different experience and not nearly as difficult. If you are struggling to beat Libra, but just want to get the win and the relic for completionist purposes, because there's no other reason why anybody is going to want to get that relic, then I would recommend simply loading in solo. I almost never make solo runs, but loading in solo is exactly what I did to beat Libra, and I ended up getting the win pretty quickly. In a trio, his fight feels full and fast-paced and chaotic. Solo, it feels kind of underwhelming. I was able to beat him solo by completely ignoring the NPC and the eventual second NPC. Libra really doesn't have many attacks and doesn't do much until you attack him. You can pretty easily play at your own pace in a solo run. Now, despite it being easier solo, I think it is a better fight when playing in a trio. If From Software made his Everdark fight different and decided not to include NPCs, his attacks and moveset would certainly be more diverse and interesting. But because they made the choice to add NPCs, they didn't change much with what Libra does himself. So for me, it makes the solo version of the fight fall flat a little bit. Plus, for the first time in a long time, I am actively trying to optimize my relics for a build to get through and win in a trio. I no longer have to really optimize my relics very much for other Nightlords, so that has been a fun change in how to approach this fight. I play mostly with randoms, so, for example, I do not typically run the Everjail relic. While I know it is objectively the best way to get the highest damage you can on a run, without some level of coordination, it can be tough to hit enough Everjails with randoms to make the relic worth it. But in trying to beat Libra, I have run into more people running the Everjail relic than I ever have, so I know I am not alone in changing up my relics for Libra. Before Libra's Everdark fight, I barely had any playtime solo at all. I typically loaded in solo to complete the remembrances, but otherwise, I never went on solo runs with the purpose of defeating the Nightlord. I've never had much of a desire to play this game solo. And in doing those solo Libra runs, I confirmed for myself that I don't really care to play this game solo. Playing solo is a different playstyle, and for me, if I want that playstyle, I will simply play Elden Ring. The purpose in Nightreign is to defeat enemies quickly, to complete as much of the map as possible in the 2 nights. That way you can level up and get the best loot that you can. But doing this solo can feel like a slog, especially when you come up against certain enemies. For example, if you're playing Duchess and run into Crucible Knights, you have to play much more tactically to beat them, since Duchess cannot break through their shield. When playing Elden Ring, learning their attack patterns so that you can appropriately dodge, block, or parry, and know when to attack yourself is all part of the fun. But that is not part of the fun in the Nightreign gameplay loop. Nightreign is so fast-paced that you want to be able to blow through enemies in a way that you cannot always do solo. To From Software's credit, they have balanced the solo experience in a way that you can make a viable run without defeating nearly as many bosses as you need to when playing in a trio. But as I said, you're always going to run into those characters that take far too long to beat to make it worth it to fight them when you're playing solo. You run into that when you're playing in a trio, but it is far more few and far between that you see it. When you're playing solo, certain characters have limitations that simply make certain enemies much more difficult to defeat. That is a problem for Nightreign in the sense that you need to be able to get through everything quickly. So with all of this, it makes the feel of the game completely different when playing solo. I'm glad that the option is there for those who want to and who enjoy playing solo, but I know that it's not for me. This might be a hot take, but I would prefer to play with randoms in a trio or with a friend in a duo over playing solo. Am I alone here, or does anyone else agree? With so many Nightreign players coming from Elden Ring and other Souls titles, I imagine that there is a large population of people who prefer to play solo. And if that is you and you love playing the game that way, then all the better. And I think that this Libra fight is the first one, as far as the Night Lords are concerned anyway, where you are getting an experience that's fairly drastically different. But anyway, that's all for today. I had a bunch of thoughts after having to beat Libra solo and wanted to share them through a video today, but that's all I've got. Hope you enjoyed it for today.